Welcome to a football show. Draft week is finally here. Zach Lyons, Braden Gall here on a football show. It's about stinking freaking time. The NFL draft is here. We've got a great party for you guys planned on Thursday evening. We'll tell you all about that, of course, presented by Sinkers Beverages and the Kingston Group. We still have a few tickets left. Not many, Zach. We've sold some tickets over the weekend. We got a few left. So we'll give you access to that. Of course, you can sign up and come hang out with us at Track 1 there in Wedgwood, Houston. Sinkers Beverages, the reigning defending champions of liquor stores in Nashville, 2022 best of liquor stores in Nashville, of course, bringing you this here product. Man, I don't know, dude. What a weekend. We got rumors to get to. We're going to talk about some of the rumors that have been floating all over the weekend. We just got done listening to Rand Carthon, not Mike Vrabel, talk for about 45 minutes about draft week, his first draft week.
Talk about a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah, not a lot. I've got a lot written down, and I'm not sure how valuable any of it is. And then, of course, if you missed Thursday's show, complete offensive preview, every position, every round of the draft. Where should the Titans be targeting certain players at each position in terms of not just like our top five, but value as well within the draft rounds 1 through 7. We're going to go through that process today with defense. So a complete defensive preview of the draft coming up on Thursday evening. Again, come to the draft party, Sinkers event space, catered by Jaspers. All the money goes to charity to help our kids. You're going to be there. I'm going to be there. We're going to have some special guests.
We're going to have a Texans fan there as well. So a listener of the show, Sean, he is going to be there. And he's already threatened lives if Levis is a Houston Texan. So, it's going to be great. It's going to be great to have a Texans fan there. Maybe some other. I know there's a Chiefs fan, but if the Texans royally screw this up and draft Will Levis, it will get really it will get really nasty and loud from my direction towards the Texans fan.
Listen, trolling
he'll just have to take it.
Trolling for charity is still charity work. Okay. There may or may not be a Colts fan in attendance as well. And so I'm curious, the only thing that brings everyone together, Titans fans, Texans fans, and Colts fans, is the distaste for Will Levis.
Yes.
That's about it. Sorry, QC Hawk, no travel vouchers if you're coming in from Iowa. But if you're going to drive in from Iowa to come to the draft party, I'll just pay for your ticket. How about that? That's the $40 I will donate to charity. And Donnie, hope you're feeling better, of course. Or no, congratulations, I suppose, pending new addition to the family there for Donnie. So early congrats on that. Hope everything goes well for you guys this week. Okay, so Kingston Group Sinkers, you guys know the drill.
Should we just take the party to the hospital and bring a TV and all the liquor and just tailgate at the hospital for the birth?
Donnie, I'm not sure. I don't think Mrs. Donnie would appreciate the live stream element.
We don't have to live stream the birth. I don't want to be in the room when she's shitting the table and shitting herself. I just want to be.
Could be fun
in the lobby area.
Oh gosh, Stoney, what's the name? Track 1 is the name of the venue. It's in Wedgwood, Houston. It is the Sinkers event space. I'll get all these details. I'll get to you guys. It's a fantastic location.
You bought a ticket. Cool, it's going to be on the fucking ticket.
I sure hope it is. It's a really and parking is free, by the way. Parking is totally free. Big old parking lot down there, man. And we're gonna be there through the end of the first round. So a lot of picks, a lot of fun, a lot will
lot of food. Will Stoney make it by the time the Titans pick? I have a feeling that Stoney's gonna be really late to this.
He'll be out there. He'll be out there wandering around 4th Avenue, thirst trapping about pick 9. That's what's gonna happen. All right, first of all, we'll get to Rand Carthon's press conference. So many rumors swirling around the NFL draft, particularly with the Titans. And, of course, we'll do our entire defensive preview. But I'm just genuinely excited, dude. I think we are going to have a wild top 10. It's finally here.
I talked myself out that nothing's going to happen in the top 10.
It's going to be boring
This is all NFL trade deadline hype. Like all this hype, and we're building all these crazy rumors and all these crazy fantasies are in every team's head right now. I mean, you got the Steelers want to trade up for an offensive tackle. You got teams calling about number 3 for an offensive tackle. No trades are going to happen in the top 10. That's my bold prediction early on a Monday, is that it is just going to roll like normal.
But I think you could be right, but I don't think that means it's going to be predictable, right? Like even if no trades happen, it still could be, what does Houston do it to? What does the Colts do it for?
Exactly like we all thought. Like Well, and I already thought that Houston wouldn't take a quarterback, so I guess maybe that doesn't count. But at this point, I think it's just going to roll. It's going to be boring. It's going to be the most boring NFL draft. We'll be like, what the fuck happened?
But even which quarterback goes one is, and I know Bryce Young is the betting favorite, but even which quarterback goes one dictates what could happen at 2, what could happen at 4, what could happen at 5, what could happen at 7, what could happen at 11. So we're gonna have a little trivia, by the way, at the event with some giveaways, some gift cards, and some booze to give away, some fancy booze. And of course, if you can predict, the person who predicts the top 10 most accurately is going to get some door prizes. So again, buy some tickets, come on out, help some kids, watch the draft, have some fun with us. Kingston Group and Sinkers, of course, making this happen. QC says, this is where we're going to get started. What do you make of, and it says, we're going to get into it right now. Rand Carthon today said that basically Ryan Tannehill and he sat down in February, had a conversation, and that Ryan Tannehill is exactly where he stands on with the team. And I want you, Zach, to tell me what was said in that meeting to Ryan Tannehill, because I have my own opinion, but I want to know what you think Rand Carthon said to Ryan Tannehill in that meeting in February.
Hey, don't be alarmed that we're going to be looking at quarterbacks. That's what he said. I mean, like, what else is there to say? Like, you're on the last year of your deal. We may talk extension after the draft. I don't know, but hey, we're gonna have to look at some quarterbacks. He probably said Malik ain't it. You know it. I know it. We both know. Everybody knows that Malik Willis isn't it. So we got to find your quarterback of the future, your replacement, your heir to the throne. And don't be alarmed. We don't want to have an Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love situation.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I thought too.
Can we take a pause real quick? Because the S2 guy, Brandon McNally, is on Pat McAfee right now. That's what I was listening to on my phone. And he said that at least 2 of the scores aren't accurate. But he refuses to come out and say that it's CJ Stroud's score. Master class in public relations by them. He even brought up lawyers and all this stuff in at the beginning, talking about like he had talked to his lawyers and all this stuff. I could barely hear it because you're talking in one ear. I'm trying to pay attention to both. I'm on a show, but masterclass to not say which 2 scores, because Tyson Bagent's score came out this week, and he could be talking about Tyson Bagent and Jay Kaner's score, and they could be off by 1%, right? Like, he's not even saying anything other than that 2 scores were wrong. Maybe Anthony Richardson scored a 70 instead of a 79. It's funny to me.
Well, and I've got an S2. Part of our rumor conversation from the weekend will involve some S2 stuff that I think it's maybe just more clarification than anything else. But I do think I agree with you. Look, Ryan, you are our quarterback, but we have to listen to trade offers and we have to do diligence on the draft class that's coming out because we're picking higher than we have in a long time. You're a certain age and a certain stature, and your contract says certain things. And I think it's all pretty self-explanatory. I don't think that was, I like that he was like, oh, I'll give you a peek behind the curtain. We had a meeting. It's like, that's your job. Your job is to have meetings with players.
I find it interesting that he hasn't talked to Derrick Henry in about a month and a half. And I guess that would be right at the time that the combine rumor started. So that would have been the last time he talked to him. And spare me the victory lap people are taking right now saying, oh, this is my GM. He's not trading Derrick Henry. I call 100% bullshit that he said himself, I have not received trade calls about Derrick Henry. That is a 100% lie. That is like, I am 5 Jim Wyatt's confident that is a fucking lie.
we are going to get it. We will bring out the Jim Wyatt scale of confidence in just a moment. That he doesn't drink coffee, I find that disturbing because I don't trust the person who doesn't drink coffee.
I don't drink coffee. I'm with him. That's my favorite part because me and him, we're Celsius buds.
I've never trusted you either. Trust your board vertically and horizontally. A lot of stuff in here. I
like that he thought the wide receiver and offensive line is deep. And that's what we've said. We have said this class is a lot deeper than people want to give it credit for because they're looking for the big flashy players. But I just go back to 2017, and that was considered a shitty wide receiver class, and all your depth and good players came from the late rounds, and I think that's what he's alluding to. Now, same with the offensive line. I think this is a lot deeper class in those situations. I don't agree with the quarterback class of being deep. I think that's a little bit of a stretch. It's all about I thought it was interesting. And it seems like he has more first round grades than everybody else. Every other GM in this league does.
which would lead him to trade down in theory. What's interesting is that he never says though where though, right? Because they can be deep in different places. You and I have said on this show for a long time that the wide receiver and the offensive line classes are deep in rounds like 2 through 5. Like it's deep in the middle. The quarterback class is deep at the top and then falls off and is gone. So like he didn't actually clarify any of that, but he mentioned it. One of the interesting. First of all, let me ask you this: Mike Vrabel was supposed to be at the press conference. He's not. Is that a sign of anything at all? Is that a sign of trust on Mike Vrabel's part that he just trusts Rank Carthon to do it, or that he's just too busy? Like anything at all to be read into that, or nothing at all?
Repeat it again. I'm sorry. You cut out just a little bit for me.
Vrabel not being there, is that a sign of Vrabel just trusting Rand to handle it, or no sign of anything whatsoever?
Why he wasn't there? He said, "Dude, we got players and coaches, and Vrabel doesn't." Vrabel probably is like, "Thank God I don't have to go." Or he probably said, "Hey, do you really need me for this? I got a couple players here, got a couple staffers. Do you really need me to go out here and talk and sit next to you?" And he's like, "Nah, I don't need you."
Yeah, I don't think there's anything really to be read into it. It's frankly,
it's just typical PK overlook.
Well, so the one I do like that I think is interesting, where he kind of talked about the trade prospects and fielding phone calls, and he was asked about it a lot with Intel and GMs doing their business, and he knows by Thursday he'll know who the actual trade partners are that want to come up or want to go back. I thought the one line early in the press conference that I thought was interesting was that he said, "We're probably going to err on the side of saying no." That just means obviously that just means the offer has to be great. A really great offer to move up or a really great offer to move back, but we're probably going to err on the side of saying no. I don't know if that was interesting to you, but I thought, he kind of gave us a little bit of a hint that they might be picking at 11 there, maybe.
Yeah, I think they're trading out. Like I would say right now that if I had to bet money, I would bet that they trade back. I am almost firmly convinced that they trade back and they're drafting Hendon Hooker, and that's what we're going to be talking about, and everybody's going to be celebrating and all that stuff because they have done so much research on Hendon Hooker.
You mean in the first round?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're going to trade back in the first round, back a few spots, and probably draft Hendon Hooker. Like if they trade with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and because that's been the rumor, the Steelers have called the Tennessee Titans, according to Todd McShay. If they trade back to 17, I could totally see Hendon Hooker being the pick.
Man, that still seems early in my opinion for Hooker.
Oh, it's totally early. It'd make me vomit, and I'd be pissed. I would not be happy about it. Please do not confuse my prediction for the level of happiness I would have, because my happiness would be like, you better get out the plastic tarps, like the Texans fan for Will Levis. I'd be pretty angry.
Donnie, I just puked, and I'm a Vols fan. I like that, Donnie. So a couple quick notes here about the wide receiver position. I thought that he was talking about and running back in a package deal here. He was asked about Debo. He was asked about size. And one of the things he said was there's a lot of great running back value in this draft, but that they can do things like Debo Samuel. And so, I think we have a thought about this team that they need to get at least 2 pass catchers, 2 receivers. That could be a receiver in the first round and a really dynamic running back that does those things. Jahmyr Gibbs won't be available, but the first name I thought of was Tajay Spears in the third round, potentially, as a guy that can do a lot of the things that the wide receiver position could do. He called him a wide back. And then he mentioned about Tank Dell that size wasn't that big of an issue for him. And I don't know what you
that scares me.
I was going to say, I wanted to know do you think that that's some insight into how he views? Because there's a lot of Deuce Vaughn, Marvin Mims, like there's a lot of, Tyler Scott.
That would be a terrible way to approach your first draft.
All right. That's a good segue then, Zach, into our rumors, because I want to ask you, Matt Miller tweeted this out. He said he talked to a first-year general manager, and the first-year general manager, so how many Jim Wyatts? The first-year general manager basically said, you want to hit a double. I'm paraphrasing here, but you want to hit a double instead of strike out, swinging for the fences. Your first draft matters maybe more to yourself. I don't know how many first-year GMs there are in the NFL off the top of my head. I know there's a handful, but it doesn't sound like it was Rand necessarily. But how do you think being a first-time general manager affects Rand's decision making? How much reality should that matter to him?
Are you asking, do I think that he's thinking, well, I'm a first-year GM, and I got to do this, or I got to make sure that we do this as a team because I am a first year GM. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, and maybe just being more conservative because it's your friend. Rand said it today. He's like, I don't really know exactly what to expect in all these different situations. I've got to come into this sort of open-eyed and open-eared to all of this. Does that affect? I mean, certainly having 30 years of experience is a good thing, but like, do you maybe not swing for the fences, not take the quarterback, do something a little bit more safe because you haven't done it
No,
before?
no. In fact, I'd almost think that you would be what the first guy said in Matt Miller's piece. You'd swing for the fences because it's your first shot, and you know you're going to have another year. I mean, like
Yeah.
technically, how many GMs are fired after their first year? Not many. I don't know if I know of one actually that's been fired after their first year. Um, so yeah, I would be more apt to think that you probably, because I look at it this way. Typically, from what I've seen in business, when you get a new young manager that comes in, they want to make a name and they want to put their stamp on it. Being conservative would not be the stamp. Being a wheeler and dealer kind of would in the NFL draft world. That's how I would view it. Like you always bring in your ideas and everything. And from everything that we've heard, this isn't, it's Rand Carthon's draft as GM, but it's not Rand Carthon's first draft. So
Right.
he's handled whole days. He's been involved in whole days of drafts with San Francisco. So I don't know if the limelight is going to get to him like maybe some other GMs would, some other first year GMs. I feel like I think that at the end of the day, he's going to make a decision that gets him the most players. And that's why I'm kind of moving off of them trading up, because I look at the history of San Francisco and their average of 8 draft picks a draft. And I just think if he's got a big board with first round grades, as he alluded to, which most GMs will come out and say, I only got 15 or I got 12, which is ridiculous because there's 32 players get drafted in the first round. You need to have tiers to your first round grades. I feel like just doing a first round grade is ridiculous. He alluded that he's going to be comfortable moving up, moving back, wherever. I think he's moving back. I think his play is going to be moving back and picking up extra picks.
I think trading back is should be the number one vote. If I'm a Titans fan, the number one thing I want to have happen is for them to trade back, add an extra second, add an extra third, add a fourth, whatever it might be. And I know we can, if you want to go stacking the inbox.com, sign up. You've got the whole trade value for all those different places. If it's
It was
New
a good
England,
little exercise, right? Because I mean, you look at it, you're like, okay, well, if they're going to trade back, you have to include in the first round basically everyone from 12 all the way down to 31, technically, since Miami's forfeiting their pick. And then I still think the trade back, the value is at 41. I think that is where they trade back. That is the strategy to trade back, because you pick up so many valuable mid-round picks, and you can get extra thirds, stay in the second and get extra thirds. You can get fourths, fifths. I mean, you can really clean house with the pick 41.
Andrew says trade back unless Jackson Smith and Jigba is there at 11. I think he will be there. I think he's the pick, but I think they would prefer to move back. You've got, so here's just the reason this is important is Houston could be drafting a quarterback at 12, not 2. And so you've got New England at 14, Washington at 16, Tampa at 19, and maybe even Minnesota at 23 that could be interested to go up. We know Pittsburgh could be interesting for an offensive lineman. You know, the Packers are probably interested in a receiver or a tight end. So there's a lot of different things that could happen there. I think what's interesting is I think Carthon is a like 4th round guy. I just think he loves players in rounds like
that's where he's been working, right? I mean, he works the day 3 of the draft, and I am a day 3 drafter. Like that is, to me, I don't care about the first round. Like if I am a GM, I am taking the approach of, unless I have a top 3 pick, I don't even want to draft in the first round. I want to pick up picks, and I'll go round 2 and beyond, because I feel like that is where the bread and butter of your offense from team to team, your defense, your depth, your starters are made up of mainly 2nd to 4th or 2nd to 7th rounders, not first rounders.
Yep.
I mean, what you maybe have like per team, if you're lucky,
4 or
3
5
starting first rounders, maybe. Like, give me a break. I'm out on them.
So I think we know Arizona's basically desperate. They're begging people to come take the third pick.
I don't know what Andrew's saying that don't read the chat. I comment on the chat all the time in football and other efforts. I mean, I went on a crazy yelling streak last week about people in the chat.
I spammed the chat hardcore, and you got mad at me for it.
I told you to quit spamming the chat. Quit helping Mike. Let him swim on his own.
So Arizona's pretty desperate at 3. That's a rumor that's come out. That's not the rumor that's come out, but that they're more interested in taking it. I think
they've lost all trade value.
I agree. I think they don't
they
like
overplayed
where they're
their
at.
hand.
Yep, I agree with that. The S2 rumors, this is less of a rumor and more of just like, because they, like you said, they've been doing some PR spin for the last couple of days.
They're doing some good PR spins. I love it.
I do think it's important to remind, because I saw one of the comments was from Bruce Feldman's piece in The Athletic about, basically Teddy Bridgewater was the one that stood out to me the most. And I think Carthon said this. He's only been working with him for about a month. They are a component of all of this. That it matters, but that it's not. It's still tape. It's still getting to know the person, in particular at the quarterback position. It's more about face-to-face interaction. But that these Teddy Bridgewater scored really, really high on his S2, for example, but just doesn't have the pure talent to be a starting quarterback. But it's why he's a good backup, is because he has really good processing skills. So I think we have to. It's not a grain of salt that the S2 is nothing. It's that it's a component of all of this, and I think. We've been talking about the mental processing being very important for quarterbacks, also linebackers, safeties, centers. There's a lot of other positions that it matters as well. But I think
Grant Carthon brought that up specifically, which I thought was interesting because he said it's not just quarterbacks. It's the S2 test is not just for quarterbacks. And he brought up is like, okay, well, if you see a score that's going to make you, and it's bad, it's going to make you go back and look at the tape. So cough, cough. Hey, whose scores are bad, Hendon Hooker and CJ Stroud, they're going to go look at the tape again. And that's what you got to do, right? It's like going to the combine. When you get the athletic testing from the combine, you're like, ooh, I need to go back and look at that tape. Or, ooh, I need to go look at that tape. So there's two different ways to say it. I said on Chase and Michelle today that it's one piece of a 500-piece puzzle. It's really probably like one piece of a 20-piece puzzle. But it's an important piece. It's not the be all end all. And yeah, the guy's saying, well, some of these scores don't have context and stuff like that because apparently someone rushed to an all-star game and had a bad score, which would be Hendon Hooker, I would assume, or some of the guys or something like that. Okay, maybe that's the case. And like I said this morning, maybe CJ Stroud is just not a good test taker. Or maybe he just woke up and he was just like, man, I'm just not in a good mood. Sometimes you have to you could be in a bad space and not do well at something that day. At the end of the day, these bad scores do matter, but they need to be they're extra context. That's what it's all about.
Yep. All right, so that leads us to the rumors of Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill. I've seen a few experts. I think it was Greg Rosenthal that ranked Ryan Tannehill as far more likely to be traded. I don't think that is as far-fetched as it sounds when you first see it. I think it's interesting. He obviously has more value to a team than Derrick Henry does, so that's why it would be interesting. I think that's why he would probably be ranked ahead of Henry. I think there's less takers for Derrick Henry. There's less value for Derrick Henry. But what do you make of the talk of trades this weekend? Is it just smoke? How many Jim Wyatts are we on the Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill trade rumors this weekend?
The Ryan Tannehill's a big duh. Like, I mean, nothing that Jeremy Fowler said isn't something that we've been saying since like November, like when we were projecting how the offseason was going to go back in November. So yeah, thanks Jeremy Fowler. Thanks for catching up to everybody else. I would say the Derrick Henry stuff is just more smoke. Now, listen, it is a guy who just got on Twitter at like 3:00 in the morning and put it out. And it's Akbar. I'm not even trying his last name, Gabriel or whatever. Ninja Warrior host, former NFL player, co-host.
Gabir Baja Biamila?
Yeah, that guy. Anyway, he is, he shares the same agent as Derrick Henry, Todd France. That's what you need to know. That's important because that lets you know that he heard a little something and he probably took it upon himself to say, oh, I'm going to help my bud Todd out. I'm going to use my following, my followers, and I'm going to stir the pot a little this weekend and think that I'm helping Todd out. And I think this is coming. It's obviously came from the agent side of things because that's his connection, right? It's not coming from the Eagles or anything like that. His connection is Todd France. I don't think Todd wanted it out there or told him to do it. I think this is like, it's like your buddy when you're out drinking and you give him here's a better one. It's like when your significant other tells you about their day and you take it upon yourself to try to give them solutions to fix it. And they tell you, no, I just want you to listen.
Just listen. That's amazing.
Just listen.
That's my problem.
Yeah. Just listen. I don't need you to talk.
There's no solutions needed here.
He didn't get the message that you didn't need to talk. I just want you to listen to me.
The amount of times that my wife's like, I don't want you to say anything. I just need you to sit there and acknowledge that I'm saying something to you. I'm like, okay, all right. Once you tell me to do that, I can do it. All right. So here's the thing. Here's what I think. And this is from what I believe, from what I think, from what I've heard. How about that? I think they want to trade Derrick Henry. Full stop. I think we've talked about this.
Listen, they want to trade all three of the guys. You cannot convince me they do not want to trade Ryan Tannehill, they do not want to trade Kevin Byard, and they do not want to trade Derrick Henry. And you cannot convince me that there have been conversations with other teams about those three players.
I don't think there is much value for the Derrick Henry contract on the open market right now today. I think they are far more – I think they want Ryan Tannehill to stay a Titan far more than the other two. But I think they are open to any potential other solutions that may happen. So if it's a trade, if it's a draft pick, whatever it might be, I think they are sort of more like 1 foot in, 1 foot out with Tannehill. We want you, but only if you're our best option. And I think that's like we don't want to have no option because Malik Willis ain't it. He don't hit. So like that, it's not him. But I think they want to move Derrick. And so the question is, does anybody actually want him at that price point? And I don't think anybody does. So I think they're back. The question on Byard is, as he admitted today, Rand Carthon, they asked him to take a pay cut. The question is, can they do an extension? And I think you and I have talked about it. It's not that difficult for them to do an extension for Kevin Byard.
They don't listen. Any one of these guys, if they wanted to keep him here beyond this year, would have had a restructure and extension already. It is not hard. It saves the Titans money for them to do those two different things. They have not done any of those things. Yeah. So do not expect Kevin Byard, Derrick Henry, and Ryan Tannehill to be wearing two-tone blue in 2024.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think it's clearly the last year for the running back and the quarterback.
I think it's clearly the last year for Kevin Byard unless they get a deal done. It's going to be cheaper to cut him next year than it was to cut him this year.
Bingo. Okay, any other rumors you want to make sure we're presenting here? His first draft, the Cardinals want to trade out. Houston passing on a quarterback. You've said that multiple times. Tannehill and Derrick Henry, S2 stuff. I think it's all. I think we got.
I just want to say that I think they've done a great job of being one of the main topics every day or every week in the NFL world. And that is something that Titans fans have craved, right? They want to have the national attention, and they're getting it. But they've also done a great job of not only getting the publicity, but also the publicity is like 15 different messages. Their smokescreen is so thick. It's like Thelma. Oh, what's the other twin?
Louise?
Yeah, is it Louise?
Well, they're not twins. Thelma and Louise was the movie, but they're not twins.
Oh my God. I'm talking about smoke, and you think I'm talking about Thelma and Louise?
I have no idea.
Thelma is from The Simpsons. You don't watch The Simpsons?
Oh, I haven't watched. I'm a South Park guy.
You've never watched The Simpsons though? The twins from Marge's sisters?
I know.
They smoke like crazy. They smoke like crazy.
Yes,
it's thicker than the smoke probably in their house with all their cats. It is thick, and I love it because it's just there's confusion. There's conflicting narratives. Players are getting traded. Oh, we haven't taken trade calls. We're trading up. We're trading down. Oh, I think we're going to stick and pick. We're bringing in all these quarterbacks. Oh, here's our secret running back we brought in that nobody's going to tell us about, and all this crazy stuff.
Patty and Patty. There you go. I'm sorry. Listen, I like The Simpsons. I think The Simpsons is great. I
thought it was Thelma.
I was all over South Park. I moved on to South Park quickly when I was like in middle school, which I realized is maybe an indictment of my character, but whatever. I think it's a great show. So, all right, listen, this is all of the things you just said, Zach, are why I cannot wait for Thursday evening and our first round draft party. Of course, Sinkers Beverages at Track One. in Wedgwood, Houston. It is their private event space. We've done multiple shows live from there. We're going to have special guests. We're going to do a live show when the Titans go on the clock, whether that's 3, 11, or back in the back there if they trade back. We're going to have all you can eat, all you can drink. Jaspers is going to cater it for us. There's going to be some prizes and some giveaway and some competitions. As I said, special guests. It's going to be a ton of fun. The link to buy tickets, all of the money goes to charity, goes to Our Kids Foundation. So make sure you check out. There's a couple tickets left, not a lot. It's a very small gathering. Lots of family and friends going to be there, so it's going to be a good time. So come on out, hang out, watch the draft with us. Parking is free. All, of course, presented by Sinkers Beverages. They're going to have craft cocktails, some batch cocktails for everybody, so it's going to be pretty cool. So come hang out with us. We do appreciate it. Kingston Group, shout out to those boys, the Kingston Group as well. BuildKG.com is the website. They've been supporting this show for over 2 years now, and we love them for it. So thank you guys. And if you need something, big decision about your house, renovation, custom build, they are a award-winning, locally owned custom home and remodeling firm. Again, we are all about local, support local businesses. Kingston Group, BuildKG.com. Just look at their work, man. The work is awesome. It totally speaks for itself. It's going to be pretty awesome. Stoney, I'm going to make Jaspers regret their decision to agree to this thing. So there's going to be chicken wings. There's going to be pork sliders. There's going to be queso. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a ton of fun. So the link is in the YouTube bio. It's all over Twitter as well at 440 Sports, so you can get all that stuff there. Okay, you want to do our defensive preview here?
Let's do it.
Want to roll through the defense? So a couple of questions sort of dictate where this conversation has to go. First, a broad question. We've mentioned this before. I think people need to be prepared, even though it doesn't feel like the right strategy when you do the mock draft thing, the simulators, that with one of their first 3 picks, if they don't trade any extra picks or get any extra capital, that one of those first 3 picks could be a defensive player. How likely do you think it is that pick at 11, that first round pick, maybe even if they trade back, is a defensive player?
If they trade back, I think it still could be a defensive player, but I think that's the way it has to go. Unless Will Anderson falls to 11 or Christian Gonzalez falls to 11, I think those are the only 2 guys that are top 10 picks that if they fell to 11, the Tennessee Titans would pick.
So
I think it's just Will Anderson and Christian Gonzalez, so then everybody else is just trade back.
I would completely agree with those 2. I might put Devin Witherspoon in that group. One of those.
No, I think Devin Witherspoon's. I think Devin Witherspoon is great, but I think his hype right now is getting a little out there.
So let's get into the edge rusher here because, well, I guess let me ask you this: in general, top 3 rounds or draft, do you think they prioritize edge rusher or corner in their mind? Because I think it's corner.
I would agree that I bet they have more corners with second round grades or late first grades than they do edge it when their pick came up.
Okay, I tend to agree with that.
Cop out. It's like I think that the corners that they're going to have on their board are going to be really high compared to maybe some other people.
I think I know where you're going with that. We'll get to our corners in just a second, but let's focus on edge here. And so no one else other than Will Anderson at 11 you would approve of, whether that's Nolan Smith, whether that's Tyree Wilson, whether that's my guy Lucas Van Ness. Nobody at 11 appeals to you, right?
No, I'm good. You could take your Kmart JJ Watt and throw him to the side. Don't need him. I don't need the head case Nolan Smith, who's a noted liar, and I think Tyree Wilson is just going to be Caleb Farley, but he's going to be in a wheelchair because of his legs.
All right, so let's go then. Let's start with your top 5. Where do they draft defensive ends, and who do you like and where?
There's only 2 defensive ends / edge players that I think that you just have to take at 41 if they're there. And I don't think they're going to be there. That's why I say you have to take them. And I think that's our boy Aid out of Northwestern and Will McDonald IV out of Iowa State. I think if those guys are there, you have to take them.
80 Tamiwa, 80 Ibarre.
Yeah, you butchered
just call him.
It's
Aid of Tommy.
It's Aid of I just call him Aid.
80 Barre is how you say his last name. Addy Barre. I'm gonna screw this up.
Yeah, just say Aid. Hey, I'm doing it for you. Aid.
I know. He goes by Tommy. Tommy. He's also at 6'2", 282. Like you could call him an interior defensive lineman in that Danico Autry kind of sense, but so I have BJ Ojolari in the second round. Will be a guy I would be very seriously considering.
I wouldn't,
but he's more of a Harold Landry clone, in terms of what he does. Work ethic, got every skill, total ball player, but 6'2", 248. He's not a big, large guy that plays traditionally with his hand in the dirt the entire time. I really want to like Will McDonald. I have him on my list, but he's like
He's
fifth or
just
sixth
so
down.
athletic and good. I mean, that is a blank slate of a guy that, like, if you have him, Harold Landry, and Arden Key, they're going to be in the backfield and like as soon as you snap the ball, they're all so freaking fast. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
My issue with McDonald is he's very raw. He's like some of these other
Perfect.
guys.
Perfect for the Titans. Like,
very raw.
for me, that's perfect for Mike Vrabel. Like, raw defensive prospects do not scare me away because Mike Vrabel and this defensive staff is that good. So raw defensive prospects do not scare me away.
Yeah, QC says this too. McDonald gets pushed around again against the run as well, and there's a few of these guys.
We got to quit worrying about the run game on offense, and we got to quit worrying about the run defense. I want to attack through the air and attack the quarterback.
Well, that
is a valid point, but I just want to do that.
Yeah,
like that's my shift.
All right, so you've got Will McDonald and 8-8
number one always.
Okay, so I've got BJ Ojulari out of LSU. I love Derek Hall out of Auburn, but I have him in the third round. I would not take him until the third round. But you want to talk about speed, getting back to the quarterback, tackles for loss, sacks, power, rush, physical against the run. I like Derek Hall in the third round if he's available. I think that's a really nice piece for them. And I think, again, I think he does everything you want to do, and he's a very disruptive player. So he'd be number 2 on my list. How many more players do you have in the first 3 rounds?
Those are my only 2.
Oh, okay.
I'm not taking if you don't have those 2 in the first 3 rounds to choose from, you get better value later. Just skip it.
If Isaiah Foskey out of Notre Dame is there in the third round, how do you feel about that?
I'm out. It depends on what they do with the draft, I guess, with the first 2 rounds of the draft. But I feel like the cornerbacks in the first 3 rounds are so plentiful that if you're going to go, you can't go 2 defensive picks. You're setting yourselves up for failure. So I'm choosing. There's a lot of cornerbacks that I would take. Oh, everybody else, like my it's all like 6th and 7th rounders for the rest of the way for me. It's Isaiah Land is a 7th rounder, DJ Johnson a 7th rounder, and Yasser Abdullah. He's around a 6th or 7th, and I'm just like, those guys I'd be happy with. Walk away. It's a 7th round pick. You don't necessarily need edge. You do have Rashad Weaver. You do have Arden Key. You do have Harold Landry. So if you are getting one of these guys that provides you flexibility, like an Isaiah Land who can play inside and outside, that seems like a perfect fit for the Tennessee Titans.
I think it goes without saying that if you take an edge with one of your first 3 picks, that you probably needed to have traded back in the first round to acquire an extra pick. If you have a luxury pick, you can take an edge player because this draft is loaded with really good players at that position. I like Foskey in the third round at best, but 6'5", 265, super disruptive. He can play off the ball. He's played 2-point stance, 3-point stance. He's played everywhere. Motor, super productive. Very well coached in Freeman with Kelly and Freeman. See, even Huxley likes that pick.
Yeah.
So I like Foskey in the third, but again, none of these guys I don't think I would touch unless you have extra draft capital that you've acquired because of a trade back. I do like the kid out of USC, Tuli Pelotu out of USC in the 5th round. If he's available in the 5th round, I really like him a lot. Just total ball player, super productive, power, effort, great instincts, not the best size. At 6'3", 260, but I think there's some pieces. Maybe Zach Harrison, Ohio State. I like him later on as well.
I just am not a big fan of this edge class overall. Yeah, I'm just not. I just am like, they got Arden Key. If you get a guy, I just think the value is better to get a guy like Isaiah Land or DJ Johnson just at the end. I mean, maybe even Nick Hampton out of Appalachian State. He's another guy. I just think like the 7th and 6th round for the edge class, if you can't get one of the premier guys, I think that's where you got to go. I think draft strategy wise, I just can't get out of that. I can't get away from it.
I started this exercise with the 2 names at the 2nd round pick were Ojulari and McDonald. And if one of those 2 is available, it would be hard to pass on one of those 2 at 41 or wherever they may be traded back.
I think it'd be very easy to pass on BJ Ojulari.
I know you do. I like him more. I certainly like him more than you do. Byron Young in like the 6th round could be interesting as well.
Yeah,
smaller player, but
are you talking about UT Byron Young because he's going in the 3rd round in mock drafts.
If that happens, then
I think it's going to happen. Like, I kept him off my list because I was like, okay, Byron Young in the 5th. And then I go and look and see where he's being drafted and
Yeah,
where
you
he's
could be
being
right.
mocked by all these people, and he's being mocked in the 3rd, and I'm just like, nah, that's too rich for my blood.
I agree with you because again, really nice skills. I like a lot of the things he does. He's quick, explosive. He's just not that big, and he's going to get pushed around in the run game. I think in the NFL. So I think he's. But again, can you come? If you can get value for in the 5th round and he can come off the edge on passing downs, like I'm all for it. But I think you might be right. If he's up in the 3rd, then I don't
Yeah,
want anything to do with that.
that's what I feel like. This edge class isn't being valued properly. I feel like it's kind because I like Lonnie Phelps is borderline undrafted free agent, and I'm thinking that, man, I don't know. Lonnie Phelps has got some strength to his game. He's got some leverage, and I really like what I see. Same with an Isaiah Land, and I keep bringing those guys up. I mean, I've seen it. I've seen them go against some of the top tier talent and offensive linemen, and they do really well. And I just think that this edge class is a little out of whack, and people really aren't. At least the draft nerds are not slotting them properly.
I think you might be right. Tui Pelotu, I love that player. I think he's really good. I like the two that I like the most are probably
Pohoku from San Jose State. He's another one. What's the guy? Ramirez is another guy that Jose Ramirez. I mean, I don't know. I just feel like I'm good with 8-8 because I know, and because I'm cheating and I have him on my defensive interior as well.
I do too.
Because he's Ed Oliver. You can put him on the edge. You can put him on inside. It's kind of like what they do with Jeffrey Simmons sometimes. I think he's that guy. I think he's that good. So if he's there at 41, I'm like, all in. Give me that guy.
Well, so I think that there's a chance he could fall to the 3rd. Like, this is what I think, to your point about being valued properly at this position. I think if they have an extra pick, then I think there's really good value between the 2nd and 3rd round at this position. Maybe even if you get a 4th round pick extra because you've traded back, this is a good position to target in the 4th round. Like, I think this is one of those where if you get the draft capital, there's some really good value at this position in the middle rounds. And I think that's fair. There's not anybody outside of Will Anderson I agree with at number 1 that I would take. So I started my list with basically 2nd, 3rd, 4th rounders. And that sounds like kind of something what you did as well. But again, we both like McDonald. I really like Derek Hall and Tui Pelotu, but again, not till the 3rd or the 5th, or if you get a 4th, maybe. But other than that, there's not a guy that I'm in love with so much that at 41, if you don't have extra picks, you take Jackson Smith and Jigba at 11 or Paris Johnson at 11, or certainly if you take a corner at 11, you cannot come back and take even the guys you love, 8-8 or McDonald or
You take
Ojulari.
8-8 at 41 all day long.
Okay.
I do not care who is there. I do
Okay.
not care what you drafted, unless you drafted Edge. Unless you drafted Edge at 11, you take 8-8. I fully believe that he is a top tier player and will be one of the best defenders in this class.
I am out on taking an edge with one of the first 2 picks unless you've traded back. And you can get, if you've got 2/3 and you can get a receiver and a tight end or a guard and a receiver, I need extra picks before I take somebody in the first 2 rounds of this position, which brings us to the cornerback position, because I think corner is the position in which I would not be shocked if they take one in the 1st or the 2nd round. I think those are, in fact, I think it's among the top 3 or 4 options for the Titans. I think you've got Christian Gonzalez or Devin Witherspoon at 11, potentially, if they fall. I think Gonzalez is better. So those are my top 2. And then I think Emmanuel Forbes, Cam Smith, either one of those 2 guys available at 41. One of them could fall to you at 41. And do not be surprised if they take a corner with the 1st or the 2nd round pick. I think this is the most likeliest defensive position for the Titans.
I think that if they do, Christian Fulton's gone. I think he's gone this year. Like, I think he's gone this week if this is the case. Like, I've not moved away from this. I've had this in my bones. I think that Christian Fulton, I write about it tomorrow on stackingtheinbox.com about basically who matters and who doesn't matter to the NFL draft strategy for the Tennessee Titans. Christian Fulton matters in the sense that I think he's getting traded this weekend. And nobody's talking about it.
Don't you? So if they want to compete for the division, or maybe not, maybe that's the wrong phrase. If they want to be, don't you think they need Christian Fulton and the draft pick?
No, because they have Roger McCreary, Elijah Molden, Trey Avery, Sean Murphy Bunting.
Okay.
They have the defensive line. Christian Fulton can't stay healthy, so who really cares if he's there or not? Because he's probably not going to be there for 4 or 5 games anyway. And Mike Vrabel, much like he was on David Long, seems to be pretty out on Christian Fulton. He's brought him up numerous times. I just think that within the last year of your contract, you trade him away for a 4th-round pick. I'd be all on board as long as you've traded or you've gotten Julius Brents in the 2nd round, which I think is a real possibility if he's still there at 41. Or if you trade down and get Joey Porter in a trade down and you trade with 17 with the Steelers, which would be pretty ironic that you trade with the team you had played for and you draft Joey Porter at 17. And also, I think that if you were to stick and pick at Christian Gonzalez at 11, at this point, Christian Fulton cannot be relied upon as an important piece going forward, and that includes this year.
I guess I just look at the entire cornerback room, and I've got those same exact questions. Like Roger McCreary has some questions about development. I really like him. I think he's going to be a fine player. I really like Elijah Molden, but can't stay on the field either. Like I could see them needing 4 or 5 guys instead of just 2 or 3 guys, and so I could see them taking a corner and not trading Fulton and thinking this is what we need to fill the room out. Which again, I guess is possible. Again, I like Forbes and Smith in the 2nd round. My question about Brent's, I think he could end up as a safety. I think he could play corner, play nickel. Big size, big frame. Like he could easily be like that. I don't know who is the not the Dane Crookshank or the Theo Jackson type, but I think he could play in the box. They could play him as a safety. They could play him as a corner. They could play him inside, outside.
But they probably won't. I mean, he is an outside corner.
Does he have?
He has the length, he has the strength, he has the frame, he has the athleticism. He is an outside cornerback. I mean, it doesn't mean that they can't move him around and do things here and there, but this you're talking about to me, he's the number 4 cornerback on my board.
I've got him at number 5, but I've got him in the 3rd round.
Yeah, well, he's a 2nd. I think he'll go in the 2nd round pretty easily. I got Joey Porter in a trade down at number 2. I was talking about it just overall when I said that about Brent's. Darius Rush is my 3rd for the Titans. That in the 3rd round, I have Caillou Blue Kelly in the 5th round and Corey Trice in the 5th round as to round out my top 5. And then I also have Anthony Johnson out of Virginia as a 7th round / UDFA. Kind of like a ancillary 6 for you guys.
I don't know about the size, obviously, but Trey Tomlinson at TCU, the compete level, the fight, the speed, the athleticism, super twitchy, but he's really only a nickelback. So we're talking 5th or 6th round for him.
And then now you got 3 nickelbacks.
Yeah, well, exactly.
I mean, might as well get a photograph and, that way you can remind us all.
Rez-John Wright out of Oregon State. I like him a lot as well. Big size. He's a really big contested catcher. So if you're going up against big physical receivers, he is a really good sort of good length, great in the zone. He's a guy who might be available in the 5th or 6th round as well. So those are some names there. But again, I'm with you on Gonzalez or Witherspoon in the 1st round. I like Porter a lot, but it better be a trade back.
No one under 6 feet is allowed on this team in the secondary class.
So I guess
out on Cam Phillips or Clark Phillips out of Utah, out on him. Don't need him. He's 5'8". Like, what are we going to do with him? Get him out. You got Elijah Molden. You have Roger McCreary can go in on a pinch. You don't need more of the same. We need outside guys, like outside wide receivers. They need outside corners.
I think Cam Smith would fit out there as a man corner from South Carolina.
He would do pretty good, but I think Darius Rush is better.
And in value wise, you get him a little bit later. Because I think Smith and Forbes are both in that like early 2nd round, late 1st round conversation where Brent's is kind of located.
I really like Caillou Blue Kelly and Corey Trice's 5th round value. I got Caillou Blue Kelly in a mock today in like the 6th round. I was like shocked. He is a good man cover corner, and I don't understand it.
Corner tends to fly up boards, but you can also find really good ones late. Like it's a weird position because people value it so much. But
and now you have Chris Harris, who is he wants length, he wants size, he wants physicality. So I think that whatever corner they end up drafting, because they will draft at least one, is going to tell you a lot about the new philosophy of this defense in terms of coverage scheme going forward.
So, and I think we'll touch on that a little bit more when we talk safeties at the end too, which really is only they're going to draft a safety, I would assume, only if they think he's extremely versatile, can play a little bit of man coverage, and they also make a move with Kevin Byard. So we'll talk about safeties last, but there's a couple names on that list. Quan Martin, for example, they had a top 30 visit with, I think.
Trey Dean.
Out of Illinois. Yeah,
I think Trey Dean was just a private meeting though.
So let's go to middle linebacker here. Listen, is this the most important position of need on the defense in your opinion? Or do you think they're set?
I think cornerback's more important. for this team. They have to find a cornerback in this draft. They don't have appropriate corner, I guess, talent, in my opinion. Roger McCreary's not athletic enough. Christian Fulton's not healthy enough. Trey Avery's not good enough. Elijah Molden struggles with. He's not athletic and struggles with health. You got to find something. So this would be second for me, and basically you're telling Monty Rice to kick rocks. Enjoy working at the Gap at Cool Springs Galleria, Monty Rice. And I'm okay with that. I didn't like the Monty Rice pick when it was made. It was way, way too high for Monty Rice. He's turned into exactly what I thought he would be. Nothing. He's not been great. He's been serviceable at best. But when you have guys like Jack Gibby and these other no-name guys come in and look better than you, that's not good. So, but I don't think I'm drafting one in the first 3 rounds, really, unless like that first round dictates so much of what I feel that the Titans can do with like a Jack Campbell. And I think Deion Henley going as high in the second round I've seen in some mock drafts is a little crazy to me.
Yeah, no thank you.
I like Deion Henley in the 3rd, in the 4th, and the 5th, but I found his meteoric rise in mock drafts to be very odd.
This is sort of the
4 and 5, by the way. Deion Henley's my 4th on my list, and Jack Campbell's 5th on my list, just because I don't know if they go premier wide receiver at 1 and then Jack Campbell's there at 41. Like, I'd be okay with that.
That's what I wrote down. Is what I wrote down was the only player I would consider in the second round would be Jack Campbell. That would be the only player I would consider in the second round. If Drew Sanders is available in the 3rd round, maybe you pull the trigger and you can get him. So sometimes middle linebackers fall real fast down boards. It's very
they're
traditional.
Like running backs, right? I mean, they're about as undervalued as running backs.
They fall real fast, and you can get real. If you want a starting middle linebacker, you can get one with picks 5, 6, 5, 5, and 6 in this draft. I think Henry Toto in Alabama in the 5th round.
Out.
The only thing is a little bit small, but they've also done very well with 5th round small linebackers in the last couple of years. Those are the top. Campbell and Sanders are the only 2 that I'm interested in the first 3 rounds. Everyone else is wait till round 5 or later and then see who you like. I like
Deion Henley's like my borderline 3rd. I would probably take him in the 3rd round. But my top 3 choices are all in the later rounds anyway. So,
all right, let me hear your top 3.
Dorian Williams is number 1. I think he has the length you're looking for. He has the speed, the determination. He has great tape. I love Dorian Williams. He's not talked about enough. I know Mike is a big fan of Dorian Williams as well. I love everything about Dorian Williams from a player perspective. He's a chess piece. Number 2 is Ivan Pace, who they've had some extensive interest in the offseason. I like Ivan Pace. You talk about Henry Toto and how small he is. Ivan Pace he's smaller, but he's like a bowling ball of small. And he plays so much bigger than what he is, and he is fast. He gets at the quarterback. He gets some tackles for loss. And then Cam Jones is my number 3. I love some Cam Jones. Loved him since the Senior Bowl. Great leader. He would be everybody's favorite Tennessee Titan by year 2.
Ivan Pace is like DeQuell Jackson. If you remember the old Maryland Colts player, Ivan Pace, 5'10", 231. I've got him on my list as well. Plays behind the line of scrimmage a lot. Great instincts, great speed, loves the contact. I like Noah Sewell out of Oregon. Again, not until the 5th round. I think he's just, the question is he just a 2-down player, which may be true, and maybe that eliminates him from being drafted. DeMarvion Overshown from Texas has great size. We're talking sideline to sideline, rangy. The guy can go, great ball tracker, very physical. He can play against, he can be a pass rusher. You can drop him into coverage, and he's good against the run as well. But I like Ivan Pace a lot there. D. Winters is another one from an undersized standpoint that could be that hybrid, third down.
He would be your kind of like your Dane Cruikshank. Like when I watched him, I was like, okay, I could see him being a coverage linebacker safety hybrid.
Dude, 5'11", 227, 4.4 speed, all over the field. Pop in the game against Michigan. He was all over the field against Michigan. The guy has great play speed. Extremely, obviously not going to be a between the tackles like thumper at his size. But if you want somebody that can play the role of that hybrid, star back kind of thing. The dude can run and he can play in space, and he does everything well. So D Winters is a guy in the 6th round from TCU that you just keep an eye on. Again, you can get him very late potentially in the draft. Other than that, I just don't know. Like, if you take somebody in the 5th or 6th round for depth, I think that's fine. But I just don't think this is, while it's a position of need, it's just not something you have to do early. I know Stoney says Marte Mapu. They're very interested in him. I think they had a top 30 visit with him as well. So keep an eye out for him out of Sacramento State.
I have him on my safeties. He's very much like what he says the Dane Cruikshank role, but imagine the Dane Cruikshank role in a bigger body and someone that can actually rush the passer too. Like, you could put Marty Mapu around anywhere. You put him in safety, you can put him in inside linebacker, you can put him outside linebacker. I mean, I have him as the only safety that I'm truly interested in, and really it's more of a hybrid role.
Well, I think, we know they want positionless football, and safeties and corners overlap, linebackers and safeties overlap. Like, there's a lot of different ways. Nickel and safety and outside linebacker can all overlap. Like, there's a lot of different ways to put the best, most athletic people on the field when it comes to defensive organization. So I just don't know how many defensive players they're going to take. Like, that's what's really interesting.
I think it all depends on how much they trade back and do this or that, but I would say 2 at the max. I'd say then in a trade back, I'd say 3 at the max. Like, I don't think it's going to go.
Yep.
The majority of these picks have to be offense.
If Kevin Byard, and we'll get to safety, but if Kevin Byard is traded, then you're adding safety as maybe a number 1 need, and then all of a sudden you probably got a pick for him. So in which case that pick is being used to replace him. But I think it's a corner and an inside linebacker. Let
me say something. Just because none of these players get traded this week does not mean that they're in the clear.
Yep.
Most of these being traded after June 1st would allow a lot more cap flexibility coming in, and then you would have future draft picks for next year.
Okay. Let's dive into unless there's anything else you want to add on linebacker.
No, I'm good.
I do think they take one. Defensive tackle here. Number 1 on my list, man. Mazie Smith out of Michigan in the 2nd round. He's the only guy I'd be interested in. It's not a huge position of need, but that dude was everything around the Michigan defense revolved around him. One of the best defenses in the country, can play every single position, totally disruptive at every stage of the game. You can play him as a head up on the center. You can play him as a 2. You can play him as a 3 tech. Like, he can do everything. Big giant body, 6'3", 330. Like, I love Mazie Smith out of Michigan. So he would be my one guy that I might be interested in in the 2nd round.
8-8 obviously is on my list. I have Mazie Smith at 4. Yeah. Here's the thing: if the Titans were to trade down, okay, and they took Kalijah Cansey, I would not be mad at that at all. Like,
you mean in the 2nd round?
In the 1st round, if they trade back in the 1st round, and he's a 1st rounder all day long. And if they trade back into the 1st round and they drafted Kalijah Cansey and put him next to Jeffrey Simmons, who they just invested money in, and have both for the next 5 years, theoretically,
it's pretty sexy.
It's pretty damn good. Like, it's hard to really turn your nose at that philosophy, at that idea. And Danico Autry kind of becomes a little bit expendable, but you know what? You keep Danico Autry. Sorry, T.R. Tart, should have signed your restricted. We're pulling that shit.
Kalijah Cansey and 8-8 both a little. They're more Aaron Donald size-ish, right? 6'1", 285. Ed Oliver's another good comp, as you've already said.
That's why I like them next to Jeffrey Simmons and think that they can. Like, I think Ed Oliver, I think Aaron Donald. I think of those, and then you think, but then you have Jeffrey Simmons. Like,
right. You're not
if you're talking about winning in the trenches and you're talking about competing. If you don't get your quarterback and you go and get a defensive tackle that you can pair with Jeffrey Simmons, you're feasting. Other quarterback's not going to have time to do anything. And both 8-8 and Kalijah Cansey are very, very athletic players that can allow you to be able to maybe compensate for the speed or the elusiveness of a Patrick Mahomes.
I think both Cansey and Aid, if they're available in the 2nd round, and because
Aid 2nd round, by the way, I wouldn't, unless you're trading back to like 29.
Because if they're smaller and you put them next to Simmons, there's context there that we're talking about. We're adding context to the depth chart there. It's easier to put a 282-pound tackle on the field if he's standing next to Jeffrey Simmons. If there's no Simmons there, I don't think you want one of these two guys to be your star middle tackle. But next to Simmons, they're great. Smith is a little bit more out of Michigan. It's a little bit more of your traditional star middle tackle. So maybe that's why they don't go that direction. Brian Brise out of Clemson is the only one. I'm not that if he didn't get injured, this dude would be like a top 7 pick, man. Like he was the best player on Clemson's team a couple of years ago. He dealt with a whole lot of personal stuff last year. He was a number 1 player out of high school. He's been nothing but a 5-star player. When
I'm
he's been
so
on the
far
field.
out on Clemson people, and I'm good on, and it has nothing to really do with Kevin Dodd. When's the last good Clemson player? I guess is T. Higgins.
Well,
Or was AJ Terrell? AJ Terrell was a Clemson guy, right? So he'd be the last good defender.
They've got some just defenders. I'd have to think through the safeties and the linebackers. Who's the Cardinals? Isaiah Simmons.
Yeah, he stinks.
He's not terrible.
He's pretty bad.
He's
not living up to his draft stock.
I think Brise would be very, very good and would be graded very high.
I'm out on him
if the injury had not happened, but that's a huge, huge if. The only other name I want to mention here, and it's because he's one of my favorite players in the entire draft. I don't know if he's a need for the Titans, but he's one of my favorite players in the entire draft. He's one of my favorite players in college football the last couple of seasons. He played at LSU first. He transferred to Baylor with Dave Aranda, and Dave Aranda, genius defensive mind. Saiki Ika out of Baylor is one of my favorite players in the entire draft. He's not until like the 3rd round. I wouldn't consider him, but he is. We're talking about a huge frame, 335. As long as you can get consistency out of him, he checks every box of like a prototypical interior nose tackle, defensive tackle. I love his game. He flashed on film every time I ever saw him play at either LSU or Baylor. I just don't know where he fits on the team. So it's one of those, like, it's only a pick if you got an extra couple of picks in the hand. So,
yeah, I mean, that would be all right. I think that if you're not getting one of the top guys, don't draft a defensive tackle at this point.
It's very similar to offensive tackle that there's not a lot of elite ones that you find in rounds like 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
Like you either get one early or you don't find them at all.
Right.
So
I'm with you on that.
So I kind of, he's one of the few guys that I really love. Safeties here. Obviously Brian Branch is going to go in the 1st round. So if they trade back and they trade Kevin Byard, then you could see Brian Branch being an option for this team in the 1st round. But other than that, I don't think there's anybody in the first 2 rounds that I'm even mildly interested in. Zach?
No. I think you're looking for depth. Like when they drafted Brady Breeze in the 6th round, there's your safety. I think Marty Mapu, JL Skinner's probably a little bit higher than that. Jartavius Martin is higher than that, but he would be a good, interesting safety pick that is kind of flexible, kind of like Marty Mapu, but in a different way. You could play slot corner and box safety. But that's too high for him. Like where he's going is going to be too high. And Jair Brown is interesting. And so, but JL Skinner, I really like. I think he's got a couple of issues he's going to have to work out on the field technique wise. But like you said, unless Kevin Byard is gone, safety really should not be a concern unless it's drafting someone unless it's drafting Marty Mapu, who's being labeled as a safety, and really he's just defender. That is his title, is defender.
Like if you have extra picks and you've traded Byard, then all of a sudden like Jordan Battle is an option in the 4th round or something. But like again, there's not really a need. Brandon Hill out of Pittsburgh, I like him. Undersized, explosive, needs a little bit of polish, but he's got all the athletic traits you want out of a player. I think Pat Narduzzi defensive players are very well coached, and I think he's a guy in the 5th or 6th round that could be value. I like Antonio Johnson. That's fine, but you don't need him unless you've traded Byard. I do like Jair Brown a lot, though. That's a guy, super versatile, physical, great ball skills, needs to kind of refine the position, but kind of has everything that you need. 5'11", 203, played a lot of high point safety, played a lot of in the box safety. They moved him all over the place. So the kid out of Penn State. But again, a lot of those guys are probably targeted for the 3rd or 4th round, and you just can't use that asset on a safety unless you've traded Kevin Byard for the pick. So
right,
it's not really worth. Safety is just kind of a weird position this year for this team. So I mean, you paid Amani Hooker a bunch of money.
Right. I mean, it just doesn't make sense that really draft a safety.
All right. Total offensive preview on Thursday, total defensive preview today. Lots of rumors. We're heading into draft. We're going to have like a quick short show on Thursday that's going to give you some like bold predictions for the draft, first round of the draft. But really, Thursday night, Sinkers Draft Party, Kingston Group as well. Make sure you come check out come on by. We got tickets available. All the money is going to proceeds. All the proceeds are going to Our Kids Foundation, which is a charity here in Middle Tennessee that helps children. So if you like booze and you like football and you like food and you like helping children, come to our draft party, of course, presented by Sinkers. You can read all the stuff that Zach does where?
StackingTheInbox.com. Got articles coming out all week. Tomorrow talking about 10 to 12 Tennessee Titans players that are currently on the roster that either matter or don't matter to the NFL draft strategy.
Oh, interesting. I like that. It's good stuff. That's the kind of stuff you only get at stackingtheinbox.com. Football and Other F Words, all the other great shows across the 440 Sports Network. There's going to be some special guests from a content standpoint on Thursday night. So, again, we're not going to be live at 1 o'clock on Thursday. We'll have a little something for you guys, just kind of a quick preview. But really, Thursday night draft party, we will go live when the Titans go on the clock. We'll give you instant reaction with some special guests. Very famous. Many people are talking about it. Many people are talking about it. So come hang out with us. Kingston Group, Sinkers, thanks for making this show happen as well. For Zach Lyons, I am Braden Gall. Draft week is finally here, folks. Cannot wait for Thursday night. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll talk to you Thursday night. This has been a football show.